Well, hey, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Monterey Bay Aquarium here live all across the internet. We are hopefully streaming to your platforms right now over on Facebook, on Twitch, on YouTube, on Twitter, and Periscope. Welcome, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for being there with all of us. My name is Patrick. I work at the aquarium here in social media. And as you can see right now, we've got the penguin cam up because we are here to have a very special penguin chat here this afternoon. Send us your questions, and hopefully we will be able to answer the questions that you may have there about penguins. Joining me this afternoon for this live broadcast, we have, as always, the inimitable Emily over in her living room, a few miles away from my living room. Emily, how are you doing this afternoon?
I am doing very well, Patrick. Thank you so much for asking. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're really excited, one, because it's the Penguin Cam, so you know it's my favorite day because we get to talk about birds. But two, because we also have one of our amazing aviculturists here with us this afternoon. Kayla, how are you doing?
Woo! Hi guys, I'm good. How are you all doing?
Oh, doing excellent. Thank you for tuning in, Kayla. We've got folks that are joining us all across the internet. We've got folks over in England that are tuning in for a late evening viewing of some penguins. We got folks from the local Monterey Bay area. Hello, hi everyone. Hello to everyone on Twitch. Yeah, Emily, Kayla, very exciting here to spend a little bit of time here with you talking about these African penguins. Emily, was there something you were going to say before?
No.
Oh, okay.
Just I'm very excited about penguin time, Patrick.
I mean, there you go.
I can talk about penguins.
No, whenever we've got the live stream here of the Penguin Cam, you know it's the penguin of the day going on there. So Kayla, very quickly, you're joining us here on screen. We're currently looking at a bowl of ice here in the middle of the exhibit. I trust that the video might be frozen just a little bit here. I'm going to put up a picture of Ray the penguin here on screen just so that we've got a penguin to look at very quickly. Kayla, can you tell us what is your work here at the aquarium with these birds, and can you introduce us to our colony of penguins that we'll be getting to know this afternoon?
Yeah, absolutely. So here at the aquarium, I am one of many aviculturists that care for all the birds, but in particular, my focus is the African penguin colony as well as the lace and albatross. But we're here to talk about penguins. So out on the exhibit, you might see some of them collecting ice cubes because they're busy in their nesting season. But we have 18 different individuals out there. So right now we have 2 juvenile penguins that look a little bit different than the rest of the gang. They're not going to be black and white like they would be as adults. That is Thule and Piper. There are 4-month-old chicks that hatched back in December of 2019, back many moons ago.
Oh, that's...
And then we also, sorry, go ahead, Patrick.
No, go for it. Yeah, keep going. Sorry.
All right. And then, so we also have, 16 adults out there ranging in ages from 4 and 6 years of age to as old as 26 and 28 years of age. That's Mr. Durbin. He's our oldest gentleman out there.
And let's talk maybe a little bit about our elder statesman of the penguin colony there, Durbin, because 28 years old is older than I'm sure many of the folks that are tuning in right now from their homes. We got folks tuning in from Phoenix, from Boise, Idaho, Virginia Beach. We've got folks tuning in from Stockton, California. Morgan Hill is in the house. But 28 years old, that is rather old for a penguin. Can you tell us a little bit about that longevity there that Durbin is showing?
Yeah, absolutely. So typically on average, penguins typically will live between 15 and 20 years. So that is quite old. In captivity, penguins can typically live quite a bit longer than their wild counterparts. And a lot of that has to do with the access to good nutrition, good veterinary care, and someone keeping an eye on them all the time. So, we keep a very close eye on all our penguins. We're feeding them every day, making sure that everyone's at a healthy weight. And Durbin is one of those fellows that we're getting weights on all the time.
Oh, that's wonderful. Now, a quick follow-up question here. There's a lot of questions here about the ice cubes. Why are the penguins enjoying the ice cubes there? And then a follow-up question that we've got Rowan, 3 years old here, is wanting to know, how do penguins walk so well in the ice generally? But maybe we should point out that these birds here are only ever going to enjoy these ice cubes in the little tray because these penguins not used to living in the snow and ice like you may have seen in the movies, right? Tell us a little bit about the relationship here between the ice for these birds and then where they live in the wild.
Absolutely. So right now we're in the middle of nesting season. So all of our penguins have a really strong desire to collect materials to build those fantastic nests that they are having with their mates. So we'll offer them lots of different substrates to do that with. So one of which is the cobblestone that you might see actually in the nest caves themselves. And then also ice cubes. The ice cubes are very beneficial because they are plentiful. We can constantly make more, and the penguins will, they can't build up on them forever. They'll eventually melt, so they can start all over again.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing. I'm laughing just a little bit because Walvis is having a classically difficult time holding on to that ice cube. Walvis has just arrived here at Durban. They're sitting on the nest, but we're seeing quite a few ice cubes strewn about in front of the nest. Haven't quite made it into the nest box. Ooh, and we see the little egg there underneath at the moment. Tell us a little bit about the ice nest there.
Yeah, so everyone, every penguin builds their nests a little bit differently, and some of the mates are more intricate with how they're placing their ice cubes and their rocks. Walvis is, she's more of a free-spirited lady, and she just kind of throws them at the doorstep and lets her mate Boulders take the rest if he wants them. So sometimes he'll pull them in, other times he's like, yeah, they'll fall out. Someone else will take them. It's all right.
Yeah, some of the people watching might recognize their relationship where someone gets the furniture from IKEA, then the other one assembles it. I imagine it's very similar. Emily, did you see some questions there in the chat we should get to?
Yeah, so you brought it up a little bit there, Patrick. I don't know, Kayla, if you want to talk about the eggs that we might be seeing in the nest boxes right now and a little bit about the species survival plan that we have in place for our penguins.
Yeah, so as part of the Association of Zoos and Aquariums institution, we manage our captive population of African penguins through a species survival program. So basically what that means is that all of the different AZA zoos and aquariums that house African penguins are working together and coordinating breeding genetics. And this allows us to maintain genetic diversity within our captive populations, as well as enables us to make proper decisions when it comes to shipping animals. Many of the chicks that we do hatch at our facility are end up moving to other institutions to add to their colonies. Some go as far away as the Baltimore Zoo in Maryland. Others are kind of close by, just up north at the Steinhardt Aquarium.
Yeah, so for those of you who might be familiar with a couple of our penguins, like Bixby and Monty and Poppy, they were 3 penguins that were hatched right here at the Monterey Bay Aquarium that have since gone off to live in different zoos and aquariums around the country. So bon voyage and good luck as part of the species survival plan there to all of our feathered friends. We miss you. But Patrick,
Yes.
we've had success in breeding these penguins here at the aquarium before. And like you mentioned, Kayla, we do have 2 penguin chicks, or at least younger penguins, I should say, on exhibit right now in the form of Thule and Piper.
Absolutely. I'm going to pull up here just a quick photo here. Let's see if I can not block the penguin too much. Just for those of you who are tuning in, shout out to Curtis, who is currently driving our penguin cam there, in case you were wondering how we were able to zoom in there. That's Curtis who is driving that. But here in the upper left, you should be able to see there a very, very young penguin chick there. Fits in the palm of your gloved hand there. For that young chick. So that there is one of the recent birds. And Emily, I'm going to pull up here. I'm going to transition that one away. And then I'm going to pull up here a photo of Piper and Thule if y'all want to take it away there as to these penguin chicks, how the folks might find them at home.
Yeah. A question that we're getting online right now in regards to penguin chicks, how long does it take for the eggs to hatch?
Yeah, so on average, these eggs will incubate for about 40 days. And typically, their parents will lay 2 eggs at a time. The first egg, typically the eggs will hatch a few days apart. I'm having a brain fart. I'm so sorry.
You're all good.
Yeah,
we're all familiar with those right now. Yeah, so they'll lay 2 eggs And usually they'll just raise one of the chicks. I know that it's a difficult task raising penguin chicks.
Absolutely, yeah. So in captivity, we're able to manage that though, and it was because they do lay 2 eggs, we are able to cross foster animals a lot, and that allows us to give other birds the opportunity to raise young because their eggs may have been infertile or perhaps didn't properly develop inside the egg itself. So we actually did end up doing that with Thule and Piper. These 2 chicks they are genetically both from the parents Messina and Pringle here on the exhibit, but Walvis and Boulders were kind enough neighbors to raise one of those chicks for them.
And Walvis and Boulders are kind of like the penguin super foster parents of our exhibit. They've raised so many of our chicks for us, so they are in excellent care anytime a second chick actually goes to Walvis and Boulders. Oof, now I'm the one who is having brain farts over here, Kayla. But Walvis and Boulders, so that's the nest box that we were zoomed in on just a moment ago. And speaking of nest boxes, I saw a question go by on Facebook. Someone is very tuned into how important these nests are for penguins, especially out in the wild. These African penguins really need to create the perfect kind of little home to be able to raise their chicks in. And we're actually working together with the Association of Zoos and Aquariums with the Saving Animals from Extinction program. A couple of years ago, we helped raise money to build artificial nest boxes down there, since this is a critically endangered species of penguin. Over the last 100 years or so, their population has declined in the wild by over 98%, which can be a really scary number. But when you think about all the helpers out there that there are, especially at the Association of Zoos and Aquariums and at our aquarium, we're working so hard to make sure that these penguins have a healthy future.
Yeah.
That program and that species survival program, I mean, that's what it's all about, right, Kayla?
Absolutely. And one thing that I think you would ask me earlier, Patrick, and I'm so sorry I skipped over a bit, but where is the snow and ice around these penguins is something I believe was asked. So African penguins are found on the southern coast of Africa. So they are both in South Africa and in Namibia, and they primarily inhabit islands that are off of the coast there, and some do actually reside on the coast of the country of South Africa, but I believe it's just 2 colonies that are there. So these guys, they don't have snow and ice where they live. They're actually, when they do nest, historically they would actually dig out and make burrows in guano, which is just bird poop that had built up over centuries. But as people arrived to these areas, we also discovered that all that guano is a really awesome resource for various things, and so we began to harvest it. And that took a lot of the den space that these birds would utilize. So we have come up with creative solutions through conservation, such as this nest box project, to give these animals opportunities to nest in the wild still and not be exposed to, they can be exposed to extreme heat, extreme weather from rain, and lots of other things that can really destroy their nests in the wild.
Absolutely.
Exactly,
Yeah. Lots of different things going on there with penguins in the wild. And we were seeing a lot of chat there of people very concerned about all that. Emily, I'm going to let you take it away because I'm just dealing with a little bit of technical stuff over here, trying to get this stream out there to Periscope and Twitter and those folks out there. But if you are just tuning in, thank you so much. My name's Patrick, work at the Aquarium and social media with my coworker Emily, and we are talking to Kayla, Aviculturist Kayla, who's over at the aquarium right now taking care of the birds. And maybe, Emily, do you want to guide us into a discussion about what's the day in the life of taking care of these birds over there? Not sure if we mentioned what you were up to today, Kayla.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you took that away right there, Patrick. Kayla, what's going on? What's your day been like today?
Yeah. So every day I come in, the first thing I typically do is I draw the curtains from the front of the penguin gallery, and I just take a quick look of everyone, make sure that all 18 penguins are accounted for and that everyone's looking healthy and happy. From there, I typically move on to the food room, and then it's on to diet prep. So what I'm doing is sorting through all the fish that we're going to feed the penguins for the day. And it's important for us to offer them a variety of different fish. So each day it might be a different species. They primarily eat whitebait, silver sides, capelin, and herring. The more diversity we have in the diet, the better, because as you all may know, when we have shortages of different types of fish, we don't want to be taking those from the wild to be feeding to our captive birds. So we prefer to use sustainable seafood for that reason. Once I'm done sorting through all the fish, though, we do vitamin supplementation for our birds. So I'm pilling fish, so putting vitamins in. We also do calcium supplement for our female penguins that are laying eggs right now. So I'll also get that. And then from there, it's on to feeding. And I think cleaning might be one of my more favorite parts of my job, but then on to cleaning. Yeah, it's it may not seem like it. Yeah, for me, it's a very peaceful time for me to be in there and observing the birds in their environment. You know, I get to interact with them some because, as we had mentioned earlier, it is nesting season. And so almost anything that they can grab is fair game for their nest. They do not care if it is the pant legs on my bib overalls I wear or if it's the scrub brush that I'm using to scrub rocks. If I put it down, they will do their best to try and take it.
Oh, yes.
Gotcha.
As someone who has spent a lot of time in that penguin exhibit with our birds before, anything that isn't nailed down or attached to you, or even if it is attached to you, is totally fair game when trying to put it into your nest box. I have seen boulders actually try and grab one of the mats, the squishy finger mats in there, and tried to bring it up into his nest box. I believe that there's even a video of him trying to bring a hula hoop into his nest box from a couple of years ago. Yeah, I totally believe it. So I mean, we saw it. Yeah, it's he does so many crazy things searching for the perfect nesting material. But kind of going off of that there, Kayla, oftentimes when we're looking at the penguin cam, we have a lot of people who've been watching it over the last 5 weeks of quarantine, and they've gotten to know our penguins pretty well. But every now and then we see different colorful objects or kelp inside or hula hoops inside. Can you tell us a little bit about the enrichments that we're looking at when we see those things on the cam?
Yeah, so every day when we come in and we're working with the penguins, we always have a certain goal in mind when it comes to enrichment. You know, we may be trying to encourage them to swim more today. We might be trying to utilize some of their different senses, maybe do something that's more visual for them. So we're always working towards a different goal. Today, our enrichment was swimming, so I added some of the fake kelp pieces that you'll see floating around in the pool there for them to swim around and also explore. And of course, many of them are tugging and tearing at them, trying to pull them out of the pool and take them to their nests. And then also the ice. The ice, again, it's great for that strong natural desire that they have right now to build nests, but it's also just something fun and different. You know, they're tromping through ice cubes instead of walking on the mats. It, you know, gives them a different sensation on their feet. Experiencing the ice cubes melting below them as the mates are sitting on the nest will be a different sensation than what they usually feel with just the rocks. So, but a huge part of it, sorry, go ahead, Emily.
No, I was just going to say that's something that you don't usually think about, is just engaging all of their senses with these different kinds of enrichments, even from the sensation of sitting on the rocks and stuff. Yeah, that's really cool, Kayla.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'll just tune back in just to say that it looks like you're doing your best to try to make sure that these penguins do indeed have happy feet. So that's perfect. I'm just interrupting here to let folks know. Welcome Periscope. Welcome Twitter. We figured out what was going on. Every day, a new technical bit of bewilderment over here on this side of the internet. But I believe we're streaming now to Twitter and Periscope. Welcome. Thank you so much for being there. We are currently in our penguin exhibit, being flown around by Curtis, our webcam wizard, and we have Emily and Kayla here joining us, talking about these amazing tuxedo birds. So that's it. Now for a word from our sponsors. No, I feel like I'm always just breaking in with the radio break there. We're zooming in right now on one of our favorite birds there. Can you tell us a little bit about our little ray of sunshine here that's, I believe, currently on screen?
Oh, little Ray. Yeah, so Ray was hatched here at MBA. Her parents are both on exhibit, but they are no longer a pair. But Messina and Carew were the parents of her. Ray is one of our, she is our most imprinted penguin. So she has a very strong desire to be around people. She thinks that people are giant penguins and she would love to follow us everywhere. Sometimes that can be a hassle when we are trying to move in and out of our exhibit because she thinks that she needs to follow us along. So, you know, we try to make sure that we allow her those opportunities by taking her on walks around the aquarium every day, which she does really, really enjoy. And she will sometimes bring her friends as well.
And is she a good helper when you're trying to get work done? Is she able to help assist as if she were staff, or how do you feel her performance is?
You know, if you asked Ray, I'm sure she would give herself a 100% and think that she's doing the best. But, you know, I would say more than anything, she can definitely be a tripping hazard, but we work very carefully around her to avoid that. So Ray's actually having a big year too. This is the first year that we've seen her kind of pair up with another bird. And she and Dassen have very strong eyes for each other right now. So you might actually see some, So they have not built a nest yet, but we have seen a lot of courtship behaviors. So they are hanging out together in a couple of different nest boxes, and they're also spending a lot of time sitting in some of their favorite roosting locations on the exhibit. And then yesterday, I even saw Dassen bring Ray a rock, and it was wonderful.
Well, there are all those ads about making sure to bring your loved one some kind of stone, right? Some kind of precious mineral. So in this case, a little pebble right there, that can go a long way.
Definitely.
That's amazing. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Emily, did you have a question?
I mean, lots of questions right now coming in because you mentioned it briefly, Kayla, that one of our penguin pairs, Karun and Messina, the parents of Ray, are no longer together. A lot of people curious about, they've always heard that penguins mate for life.
No.
The aquarium, not really true.
Yes.
Yeah, no, in captivity, you know, things can change. And Messina is, my understanding is that Messina is the one who made the choice to move on to a stronger, larger fellow, perhaps, because she moved on to Pringle. And Pringle is hands down our largest penguin in our gallery here. But yeah, so it is not uncommon for them. It is not common for them to break from their mate. I believe it kind of depends on different locations in the wild, but typically they have like an 85 to 90% rate of staying with their mate. And it's usually something drastic like mortality that would cause them to break from that mate. So you are correct to be confused by hearing that. But the beauty of choice is what we give them, and so if Messina didn't want to stay with Karun, we didn't make her.
Yeah, and that just something too for the folks that are tuning in and wondering about that. You were mentioning as well that these birds, you know, they have all of their needs taken care of. They can live twice as long as a penguin in the wild, and so when you have sort of the luxury of being able to really stick around to see if the grass is greener, you might end up making some different choices than what other penguins out there in the wild might have to do there. So certainly, it's as the penguin world turns in this exhibit, a little bit of a soap opera all the time. Besides the soap opera that all of you do, going and cleaning up in the exhibits all the time. It is certainly, that's right. And for those of you tuning in, Trooper is
by your soap.
Yeah, Trooper is currently the pupper objecting to my jokes there. So I will stop there and move on. Emily, take us away. I'm sorry, Trooper. I'm very sorry.
That's okay. I was just muting my mic there for a second so she could get her woofies out.
Oh, that's very good.
No, so we just had lots of folks tuning in right now. Very excited about this. Saying hello to you, Kayla. Very excited about our penguins. Lots of penguin fans out there. We did have someone over on Facebook very curious. Kayla, I mean, this seems like a pretty amazing job. We get to work with penguins all day, every day. They're so cute. What does it take to be an aviculturist? What's kind of your background?
Yeah, so I have, I think, a little bit of a more different background than some of my colleagues that ended up here. I am from Kansas City originally and actually just moved out to California about 9 months ago now for this job. So in college, I knew I wanted to work with animals, but I was a pretty lost little duck and really didn't know what I wanted to do. So I had an instructor that pointed me in the direction of the zoo field. So I graduated with a degree in animal science and was like, I'll just try a zoo internship. My zoo internship at the Kansas City Zoo turned into a 7-year career at that facility that just absolutely blossomed my love for birds. When I worked at that institution, I was very fortunate enough to be a part of opening their penguin exhibit, the Hellsberg Penguin Plaza. So when I worked there, I had the opportunity to work with 4 different penguin species, as well as go on a census trip to the country of Peru and go count wild Humboldt penguins. And it was on that trip that I fell in love with the birds. You know, I'd always, I don't want to say, I hate saying it now, but I was always more of a mammal person. I worked with polar bears and river otters, and I had a lot more, I had closer experiences with those animals because of the training and the work that I did with them specifically. But once we opened our penguin gallery and I started working with the penguins, I was like, holy cow, every single one of these little birds is like one polar bear. Like I hadn't taken the time, I don't think, honestly, to see how unique every individual was. And from that point on, I was over the moon for birds.
Oh, that's an awesome story. Wow.
I think that once you get to know the penguins and kind of get to know their penguinalities and how each and every bird is different, that's really what draws you in. At least that's what drew me in too. Because when I started working at the aquarium 7 years ago, I wasn't a huge bird fan. I wasn't a huge penguin fan, but working with the birds over the last 7 years, it's hard not to love them.
They really grow on you.
Yeah,
they really do.
And
now I'm a proud bird nerd.
That's wonderful. We just had Curtis zooming in there on one of the ice boxes that is now the nest box over there. And again, for those of you folks that are wondering, that ice can become temporary nesting material because it'll melt over time. And that also gives Kayla and the rest of the aviculture team some time to pressure wash and clean up a little bit of the pebbles in there. One question that we would be remiss not to get to, Kayla, can you tell us a little bit about the white stuff in the exhibit, and maybe a cool factoid about penguins and their particular plumbing that they have available to them? Did you feel like talking about a little bit about what it's like being in the exhibit with these birds?
Yeah, sure. So I think I understand. So
wink.
We talk about poop at least.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wink,
So,
wink, nudge, nudge.
wink, wink. Yeah. So poop. They poop so much. It is incredible how frequently they defecate, how much they defecate. It's impressive. It really is. I'm trying to think. I don't know. I don't want to say that. I don't want to say a statistic that I just made up out of the top of my head, and that's how I feel that one would have been. But
sure,
they do poop very frequently throughout the day.
Yeah, and what?
I mean, they eat a lot of food. So they eat about 15% of their body weight a day on average. You know, some days they'll skip a day of eating, other days they'll eat a little bit more than others. But on average, they're like, after the sea otters, they eat the most food of any animal at the aquarium. These penguins eat a lot, and of course when you eat a lot, you poop a lot too.
Yeah, exactly. And Jana Barstone over on Facebook guessed where I was trying to lead you down, and Kayla, good job for expertly avoiding the subject. But what I wanted to bring up is that you do see a lot of poop in the exhibit. That is what so many of the aviculturists know to go in and clean up all the time, and that's a lot of time spent doing so. But I did just want to point out that these birds are known for doing something called projectile defecation, where they can shoot their poop a few feet away from themselves to help keep their nest box clean, help keep themselves. There you go, Curtis zooming in there on the rock. But yeah, so that is something that you might actually see here during this broadcast. We did want to bring it up here before it happened on screen, and nobody else was able to beat us to the punch there. I know I did a little bit of aviculture volunteering, and I know that a lot of aviculture, from my experience, was preparing food before, during, and after it's in your penguin. It's basically what you're doing is making sure that there's food going into the bird and then cleaning it up when it comes out the other end, just maintaining the food through that nitrogen cycle. Okay, we're done with that, but I did want to make sure to bring it up before anyone else beat us to it.
I'm gonna use the term projectile defecation for forever now, and I don't know how I was not more familiar with it before.
There
so
you go.
Thank you, Patrick.
You're welcome. You know, Emily and I did many a penguin feeding show together over time, and that was always the question. And especially if you, as the presenter in the exhibit, got nailed during the show, it was derailed and there was nothing else to talk about the rest of the time. Yeah.
You can't come back from that.
No.
In case you're curious, it is very warm to be projectile defecated on.
Yeah,
It is.
It is. What? Because the penguin body temperature is a few degrees warmer than us, right?
Yeah.
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 There you go.
Absolutely. It's right around 100 is kind of average for them.
Very good.
But no, we were actually just zoomed in a moment ago on our two oldest penguins. We had mentioned Durban earlier. That was the penguin that was over there on the right side. On the left side is his mate Velma, who is our oldest female penguin. She's 27 years old. She'll be turning 28 in September 15th.
So
I know.
soon.
The sweetest. They actually are one of those newer penguin couples inside the exhibit. They've been together for a couple of years now. So even though they're the oldest penguins that we have in here, their couple, their relationship status is still pretty fresh, pretty new. But yeah, it's very cute because they both lost their mates and then found each other later in life, and it's just the sweetest thing to have Velma and Durban be a mated pair inside of the exhibit. But Kayla, I did want to point out we had a couple of people curious, especially over on Twitch. We've had a command up so that people can click on the Meet Our Penguins webpage that we have up on the website. All these birds, they have names, and we can tell them apart from each other. Can you tell us a little bit about how we can do that?
Yeah, so one really cool thing about banded penguins is that they have these beautiful little spots on their white bellies. And every one of these African penguin spots on their bellies are unique, like our fingerprints. So everyone has a little bit different pattern. Now, there are also some pretty other unique differences between them the more time you spend with them. And a big one is size. So they are sexually dimorphic pretty often. So males are oftentimes larger than the females. So those are easier ways to tell them apart.
Kind of like sit and wait to see who lays an egg, and that one's usually the female.
Yeah, I'm told that's the female, the one that lays the egg, I think, right?
That is correct.
Appropriate. Perfect.
Now, those spot patterns, Patrick, I actually think that I put a picture in your folder of one of the easiest penguins to tell apart from the other. He's carrying a pebble in the photo, and that's Sakoi. Sakoi is one of those penguins that if you're trying to, practice your penguin spotting technique inside of the exhibit, Sakoi has a big backwards S of spots on his tummy there. So there you go. That's the photo there. You can see that big backwards S that he has. That's how you can tell Sakoi apart from the other penguins. Another really easy one to practice with is Geyser, who has a big black stripe of spots up the center of his chest. Walvis has an upside down W, which is what I call it. Some people call it an M, but I call it an upside down W for Walvis on her tummy there. But those three penguins are some of the easier ones to spot, so you can practice kind of picking out those penguin spot constellations and start checking out and seeing who is who. Otherwise, there's always that cheat sheet of all of them are wearing the name tags right on their right wing band, with the males with the white bands with black letters, and the girls have the black bands with white letters.
Yeah. There was a question that I saw going by, and we've been seeing one of our birds there doing a lot of grooming, a lot of caretaking there of their feathers. It doesn't, from a distance, it can be hard to tell that yes, penguins do in fact have feathers. You're just seeing a whole lot of them there, and there are also a lot of people asking, would these make good pets? Should I go up to them in the wild? And no, these are definitely wild birds. You want to leave give them plenty of space in the wild. They have very, very sharp beaks. They can be very, very territorial and defend themselves as needed. But Kayla, you get to spend time with penguins directly, and so you have some knowledge that I'm sure a lot of folks are really, really wanting to know. And if you want to get that same knowledge, start working in aviculture, become a volunteer or something. But Kayla, can you tell us, what does a penguin feel like? What are their feathers like? Can you give us sort of an idea of what it's like to be hands-on with these birds when you have to move them around or do other things? What's going on there?
Yeah, so the easiest thing for me to compare it to for a person to go touch would be a wetsuit. If you were to run your fingers along the back of a penguin, it would feel very similar to just like a wetsuit would feel. They have so many individual little feathers there, but when they're so tightly compressed like that, they just feel very smooth. Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, so there you go. So now you know it's a little bit there like a wetsuit. And one thing that I don't think there's any birds that are currently molting, but there are some times when you come into the exhibit and it looks like there was a pillow fight that may have happened in the exhibit with feathers everywhere. Can you tell us a little bit about the molting that happens with these birds? Because people watching the webcam might get to see that every so often, a bird looking a little bit poofier.
Absolutely. So Dassen actually just finished up molting about a month ago. So he's still in his post-molt gorging phase, and he's looking a little bit more pristine than the rest of the birds. So penguins experience something once a year called a catastrophic molt. When they are getting in and out of seawater and they're exposed to the sun all the time and they're constantly preening and grooming themselves, that really breaks down the quality of their feathers. So the birds have to, rejuvenate those feathers once per year. So typically that is when in the wild they would haul out on land for several weeks. And they, they're not going out to sea, they're not going to feed, they are literally just kind of stuck on land while they go through this molting process. And literally what happens is they will gain about 30% more weight before they go onto land, and then they will stand for about 2 weeks while they just go through the molt process. So their body will begin to grow the new feathers, push out the old ones, and then yes, you get this fluffy mess that looks like a very miserable penguin. And it looks very uncomfortable.
And I'll just transition here, this image of Amigo, one of our penguins, that when during their first molt, they're going from being a juvenile with that lack of racing stripes there, the lack of the white part that you'll recognize in Piper and Thule. There's Amigo's first molt there before he wound up there with the feathers there. Okay, transitioning away from there. All right, Emily, any questions for us? Oh, do we still have Kayla? Are you still there?
I am still here.
Okay. Do we still?
She just has her. Yeah, I think she's just.
Oh.
Do we still have Emily?
I was just muted. Yep. No, Trooper was having some woofy time again. So I had just muted him.
Well, Emily, here, let me put Trooper up on screen real quick. There's Trooper, everybody. In case you were wondering, face reveal. There's Trooper. Sometimes you'll. Yeah, sometimes you'll hear Trooper get a little bit excited in the background or have some difficulties with puns and other jokes. So there's Trooper. Okay, all right, and we're back.
We're all learning the work from home routine. It's week 5. She's sometimes getting the hang of it here. I was just gonna say, yes, we have lots of questions here in the chat. One of my favorite ones over there on Facebook. Kayla, do the penguins talk to each other? And the three of us know yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
About their vocalizations.
Yeah, definitely. So there are kind of 3 main vocalizations that penguins will do. They have a bray, a yell, and a maw call. So the maw call is typically what a mate will do when they are looking for their other mate. So it's more just like a maw kind of sound where they just vocalize a little maw, and you'll hear them kind of call back and forth. And then they also have a bray that sounds, it's so loud. It sounds a lot like a donkey call, like a ee-aw. And typically what they're doing with that, it's a very strong vocalization. It's a little more of them establishing their territory and saying, hey, this is my house, and I am a penguin and hear me roar. And it gets so loud in there when they're all doing it too. It's really cool. In the mornings especially, they often start braying, and once one of them gets going, a lot of them all start to chime in, which is really fun. And then the third vocalization is more just like a yelling vocalization. It's more like when they're like when they're mad, you get this like, like I can't do that one as well. Apologies. But yeah, yes.
That's awesome. I'm gonna pull up here a photo of I believe boulders and walrus, although correct me if I'm wrong, but up it goes. Of that bray, you can see a little bit of territoriality on the lower right. There's a bird braying with the head up. The other two are braying there as well. And so some of you folks out there may know African penguins more by the term jackass penguin, if you were ever wondering, and that comes from them sounding much like a donkey braying there. So mystery solved there, in case you were wondering. Oh, I thought I knew this as a different species name. Same species there. We call them African penguins, but their donkey braying has given the sound that they make, where they sound like a donkey braying, has given them that other moniker there as well.
Yeah, it's definitely like a donkey mixed with a Wookiee from Star Wars, so it definitely has that little in there with it.
Goodness. Emily, can you do that one again? Do that one again.
Yes.
Nice. That is the best. That is the best penguin bray you are going to hear on the internet today, everybody. Unless you look up an actual penguin. That was great, Emily.
It's from 7 years of practice, Patrick.
Yeah.
What can I say?
Absolutely. That's wonderful.
What can I bray?
Yeah. Well, as we've talked about, the life of a penguin is eat, bray, love. All right, we fit it into the broadcast. Perfect. For those of you folks,
another part of their life.
Go for
Patrick.
it.
We just had a question over on YouTube that I saw a moment ago. We say eat, bray, love, but a lot of our penguins, they spend time just like us. They have circadian rhythms. They go to sleep time. But Kayla, can you talk a little bit about where they sleep? Do they sleep in the water? Do they sleep on land? Do they sleep standing up, laying down? What's the deal?
Yeah, so here in captivity, our penguins do primarily sleep out on land. They on the exhibit, every penguin has its own little roosting location. So on that exhibit, there's an address for every single penguin. I could almost promise you that I could look at them all roosting and tell you who they are just based on the location. And that, in my experience, has been true for the past penguins I've worked with and our colony of penguins here. However, in the wild, if a group of penguins were out at sea, they are capable of forming rafts and resting on the surface of water. So a raft would just be like a murder of crows. You have a raft of penguins. It's just a big group of them that would be together. But typically they do rest, I believe, on land, especially in captivity.
Gotcha. That's awesome. Related to that, penguins at sea, we have these birds up on land here. They're hanging out. It's nesting season. But yeah, these are an aquatic bird that hang out there. And one of the questions that maybe folks are kind of wondering without really knowing, we look at penguins, we know them as the tuxedo birds. They've got the black back, they've got the white belly, they've got the racing stripe. But some folks are probably wondering, why is it that these birds are black and white in this particular in this particular way? They have the black on the back, the white on the belly, and that counter shading is actually a big part of their life out at sea. Maybe we can talk about how this tuxedo is actually very, very functional for a seabird, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Their coloration is a fantastic adaptation that they have. Just as Patrick mentioned, the counter shading is what helps them evade predators from above and below. So if you were a sea creature swimming beneath a penguin looking up, you would just see that white belly and just gloss right over it and not hopefully realize that it's an animal. And same from above. If you were a bird soaring overhead and you saw the black penguin at the surface of the black back of the penguin at the surface of the water, you would hopefully just move along and not notice it either.
There you go. And so many animals out there in the ocean, everybody, that you may know, from white sharks to orcas, many species of fishes, whales, you name it. They're usually going to be darker on the back, wider on the belly, and that helps them hide from predators and from prey. And so, yeah, perfectly explained there. That tuxedo not only dressed up for any special event that they may be invited to, but very functional out there in the wild. So thank you for that. Emily, do we have any more questions there to cover?
Yeah. Bouncing back to kind of what we were talking about earlier about how each of our penguins has their own unique look and their unique name. Kayla, can you talk a little bit about how we choose the names for our penguins here at the aquarium?
Yeah, so here at the Monterey Bay Aquarium, we strive to name them after an area where they are from and their native habitat. So a lot of them have names similar. A lot of them are named after the islands off the coast of South Africa and Namibia. And then we also have some characters from here around the Monterey Peninsula. So Bixby, for example, our chick that moved along last year, Bixby was named after the Bixby Bridge. Our wonderful little Ray penguin is named after Monterey. And then other penguins like Boulders and Geyser are named after islands that are off the coast of Africa. So we've got a bit of a theme we like to stick to.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm pulling up Ray one more time just because I feel like it's been a minute since we've had Ray on screen. And
We're all team Ray.
yeah. So there's Ray right there, short for Monterey.
Monterey.
Wonderful. Kayla, another question. At the beginning of the shelter in place that occurred for people all around the world and here in the United States, there was quite the hubbub over penguins going for walks in the aquarium. Specifically, plenty of you folks here in the chat have sent us the video of the shed aquarium penguins that are going out for a walk. We've done numerous penguin parades over the years where these birds decide to go for little enrichments where they go for walks outside, and Ray is one of those birds that absolutely can't get enough of going for those little waddles. Can you tell us a little bit about enrichment for penguins in different zoos and aquariums where they get to go and explore outside the exhibit, because it happens pretty frequently, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So at least a few times a week, we try to get our group out to get out and around the aquarium. We like to make it their choice, though. So a lot of times what we end up doing is we create this little chute for the penguins to basically walk from their exhibit out into the aquarium. So it's a straight shot for them. So we'll open the doors and we will just give them the opportunity to come out if they like, or go back to their exhibit if they want. And so from there, we typically take them out on a little adventure. It's typically in the wild, penguins would have their breeding colonies that they live on, and then they would be trekking out to sea frequently to go out and find food, and then they would come home, switch positions with their mate. They stay, the mate goes out, and they're always exploring. They're always going out and seeking something. And so that's a natural behavior that I think our penguin walks and other institutions' penguin walks are able to recreate. And you can see, especially working with them, that it brings the penguins a lot of joy to get the opportunity to go out and explore and see something different, or maybe go look at the fish in the sardine round, because I know Ray really has been enjoying that.
Right. And here's a photo now taken by Amy in Aviculture, our curator of birds. There's Ray in the kelp forest window here during this time that the aquarium has been closed. So Ray has continued to go on her little adventures, and there she is there visiting the kelp forest exhibit. She's visited numerous different locations in the aquarium over the years. If you've been following us on social media, we've been bringing you Ray's waddles through the aquarium. So thanks for explaining the enrichments there. Awesome.
Absolutely.
Very cool. Emily, anything else you're seeing that we have not covered yet about penguins?
I think that we've answered a lot of these questions, and if we're not answering your question right now, it's probably because we answered it earlier in the talk. These chats will be saved to Facebook, Periscope, Twitch, YouTube. They'll be all over so that you can use them as resources. Go back, listen to them anytime that you want to learn a little bit more about penguins. I'm just going to quickly scan through the chat here to make sure that nothing new has come in. This is an interesting question that we just got over there on Twitch. Are penguins considered a keystone species, Kayla?
Oh, good question.
Yeah, so I think that they could be considered a keystone species because penguins are pretty big indicators of seafood. So African penguins in particular will primarily feed on sardines and anchovies. And there's a lot of really good data that shows the collapse of some of the various populations of African penguins on those different islands off the coast of southern Africa. And so with that data, we are able to see that when we have a depletion of this small food, the anchovy food source, we get a huge decline in penguins. Oftentimes, it's not just penguins and it's not just the anchovies that are suffering from those losses, is what I am trying to say.
Yeah, and
so I'm sure there are other animals as well.
Yeah, and even expounding on that, seabirds generally, we often kind of underappreciate just how much seabirds are doing in terms of moving nutrients from the ocean onto land, and that guano that you were mentioning for a long time, that in many different areas, not maybe these birds specifically, but I know that in many offshore islands all around the world where you happen to have big seabird colonies, they're crucial to the health of what's going on land as well. So that connection between land and the ocean there really made possible by those seabirds there. So really great question, kind of thinking about that larger view there of penguins, and in particular these ones, which are down to so few from their historic numbers, down over 97%, I believe, of their historic abundance. We know that these birds played a crucial role in their habitat. And right now, Curtis is zooming in on a little bit of aloe preening, a little bit of bird love going on right there. Can you tell us a little bit about what we just saw there?
Yeah, so aloe preening is something that we commonly see amongst the penguins. Preening itself is just when the birds will typically reach down kind of to the just above their tail, where they have their alopeginal gland, and they will get a little bit of oil and then spread that around on their feathers, get in between them, get themselves all clean. And then we also see them do that with one another. So penguins are very gregarious, and they enjoy their mates. They enjoy the counterparts of their colonies and interact with one another. So you'll see one of my colleagues calls it their bromance, but we see lots of the males that enjoy preening one another. I know Sabi has several boyfriends that she enjoys preening with. It's just, everyone just getting along well and enjoying some time together. But preening those feathers is also very important. It's important for them to stay well groomed and to keep those feathers nice and covered in those oils so that they stay waterproof and healthy.
And that was something that went by there a little bit quickly. I want to bring that back up. Can you tell us a little bit more about that conditioner gland that these birds have at the base of their tail? Because that is something that a lot of folks watching the cams might notice, is that during a bout of preening, the bird will reach back over towards the tail and then kind of come back and keep going over the rest of the body. Can you mention what that was again?
Yeah, it's an alopeginal gland. I think I'm saying that right. Please correct me if I'm wrong, Emily. But it's just, yeah, go ahead.
It's one of those words that you read all the time, but you never say out loud. So I'm trusting you. You're the authority on this.
Yeah, so their alopeginal gland. It's a gland, again, just at the base of, just above their tail. And it almost looks like it has its own little feathers that stick out of it that are always just a little bit greasy looking. And then the birds just use their beak, and they'll just kind of rub, they will bite at it to get some of the oil onto their beak and onto the sides, and then they just distribute it on all their feathers periodically throughout their day while they're preening.
And there we go. We got Curtis zooming in there on the tail end there of the penguin. Then there was a question at the beginning: what good is a penguin tail? Well, you can see it right now. It definitely helps as a tripod for standing up there, and then also that is where the gland is for keeping that conditioning going there on these penguins. We just had a question that I didn't see before. It's a really good one. How are penguins able to see underwater? When we look underwater, everything goes blurry. Salt water, obviously, also maybe a little bit painful for certain people. How do these birds see underwater? It's a very good question.
Yeah, so these many seabirds, penguins especially, have an extra membrane over their eyes that's called a nictitating membrane. And it actually moves from right to left instead of up and down. And that nictitating membrane will close over their eyes when they are below the water, and it basically just functions like a swim goggle and allows them to see underwater without an issue. Penguins are also very visual predators, as you may know, and so because they are able to see so well, they're able to pursue a lot of these different types of bait ball fish that they pursue, such as the anchovies and the sardines we talked about earlier.
There you go, nictitating membrane. There, we've hit a lot of words of the day here today. So, if anyone out there was trying to compete, you know quite a few words now today. That's certainly going to give you an advantage next time someone's playing Scrabble. There, awesome.
All right, Kayla, we are just about out of time. How do you feel about doing a couple rapid fire questions?
Lightning
real
round.
quick?
Okay. Lightning round.
Lightning round.
Okay.
All right. So, how tall can African penguins get, and how much do they weigh?
Yeah. So on average, they weigh between 7 and 11 pounds, and then let's see, height. I think on average they're 24 to 28 inches. And again, I had kind of talked about the sexual dimorphism earlier. So Ray is she's a small penguin. She's about 5.5 pounds, and she's only about, I haven't measured her, but probably 18-20 inches tall. And then Pringle, on the other hand, is a beefy, I think, 13 pounds, and he's easily 28 inches tall. He's a big boy.
That's awesome.
Okay.
Follow up.
How long? Oh, go for it, Patrick.
No, you had it. Go for it.
How long can they hold their breath?
Boom.
Yeah, so they typically do not dive to great depths, but they can dive up to 400 feet deep and hold their breath over 2 minutes if they're really pursuing something tasty.
There we go.
Nice. Patrick, did you have another one? Otherwise, I'll keep on going.
Keep going,
here.
Emily. Just keep the pressure on
right.
there. I know Kayla's answering, but we can she might crack under pressure. Keep up the questioning.
I don't know.
I think she's got it.
I know we talked a little bit about this earlier, but how old can African penguins live?
Yeah, so in the wild, 15 to 20 years on average, but in captivity, their life expectancy is greatly expanded. But I have also read some literature of penguins that were tagged and were in their late 20s in the wild as well. So there are always those rare variants that really know how to find their fish and survive in the wild.
Nice.
All right, and then I think this is our last rapid fire one for you. Do penguins migrate?
Yeah, so the species of penguin, primarily they do not. Most of them, I believe, live around their nesting territories. So the African penguins, for example, they so sorry. Getting near the end, you guys. You got
You're
me in
good.
the lightning round.
It's been an hour. It's been an hour.
It's been
we
an hour.
got it going.
Kayla, you're doing amazing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so they typically have a breeding colony that is their home address. This is where my mate and I have our nest. This is where we live. This is what we love to do. And they will basically use that as their home base. They will go out to sea and find food and come home, and they're always working to raise chicks. So it is just a constant cycle that repeats itself. But there are things that happen once a year. There is a thing that happens once a year that we discussed earlier, and that's the catastrophic molt. And it is not unlikely for a penguin to molt somewhere else from where they call home for their nesting season, I have read. So it is possible that they would maybe molt in a different location than where they nest, but typically they are not doing it very in an extensive migratory pattern. Now, on top of this, there is a lot of research that exists showing penguins that are moving with they're moving when their fish stocks are getting depleted. So when they do not have access to food, they will go out and seek other locations that they could find it. So I know with the penguins in South Africa, they have seen different populations collapse, and some of the individuals from those other colonies that collapsed have moved to other locations. Others, unfortunately, I think just ultimately demise from the lack of food. But then there's other species of penguins that I know are doing really well with climate change and are actually growing in colonial size, and that is gentoo penguins. Gentoo penguins are a species that's actually become a winner of climate change that is well with warmer waters. And so every individual species story is different, and some of them are more capable of finding the resources they need than others.
That's
Long answer.
That's no, good job, Kayla. You made it out of the lightning round. Congratulations. Very few actually do make it out of that, so congratulations. No, just kidding. That was really awesome, Kayla. Just one final question for you to wrap us up here. We've got a lot of folks that are tuning in from around the world, and many folks have been big fans of the Penguin Cam for a very long time. If there is anyone out there that is thinking about working with penguins or helping with penguins, what sort of career advice or advice would you give to them out there if they want to make penguins a bigger part of their life? What can the penguin fans at home do to help out these birds?
Yeah, so I would encourage all of our penguin fans out there, if they're interested in finding ways to work with birds, is to contact your local zoos and aquariums that may have them and find out about volunteer opportunities. There might be opportunities to work in different types of capacities to support penguins as well. You both love penguins so much as well, and you work in our social media team.
Woo! Nice.
Yeah,
Well,
that's it. The biggest thing is volunteering. That's an excellent foot in the door.
Yeah, we love and we miss our volunteers.
So much.
we do. Yeah. Hello to all the volunteers who might be tuning in right now. Thank you so much, Kayla. Very quickly in the chat, can we get first some thank yous to Curtis for flying us around there during the Penguin Cam? So just some thank yous there. Our webcam wizard there, making sure that we have these webcams for all of you folks to enjoy. The Penguin Cam is available all day, every day on our website, MontereyBayAquarium.org. You can also head over to YouTube, and you will find many of our live cams there, as well as we have some on Ustream. But all of our webcams there on our website, MontereyBayAquarium.org, and you will see these penguins if you want to follow along with them. And so after those thanks, can we get some huge thanks to Kayla for spending an hour with us going through the penguin ringer there of questions and emerging, having just educated so many of us all around the world with penguin facts, and also sharing your excitement for these birds. Thank you, Kayla, for spending so much time with us. This was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It was a wonderful opportunity, and I love other bird nerds, so bring on the questions.
Oh, awesome. All right, Emily.
Well, thank you so much to everyone who tuned in with us this afternoon. If you're looking for more awesome ocean content, head on over to our social media channels. We've been putting out keeper chats like this with Kayla, with some of our other exhibits. We're also going to be doing another one of our Mysteries of the Deep live streams tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. But otherwise, just a quick reminder that we miss all of you, and we appreciate and love you all, and love all the support that we've been getting and seeing in the comments and in our messages. Don't forget to be kind to yourself during this very kind of stressful time that we're all occupying right now. Don't forget to be kind, most importantly, to each other. And we will see you again soon here at the Monterey Bay Aquarium. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Take care.